Hey everybody, I'm back, and this time I'm taking a look at Gloomhaven. This is an early access build of the digital version of the cardboard Gloomhaven board game, which I play with some of my friends and my son for a good long time. About a year and a half took us to get through the whole campaign. Now, I'm going to have to be up front. I'm re-recording this as narration over top of the original video, because it turned out 15 minutes of recording, I didn't even notice that my microphone wasn't plugged in. So I'm kind of dumb. What are you going to do? So I'm going to do my best to watch the video and sort of explain what's happening. So we're going into Guildmaster mode. Guildmaster mode is like the campaign mode that's coming later on, but you know, it's not a full-on campaign. There's no story or anything, or there's very little story. I'm a little unclear because I haven't actually unlocked the Guildmaster mode proper. I'm currently doing, I just finished the tutorials, which explains the basics of how to play in a very well way. I really like the tutorials, very clever and quick. And then now I'm going through the story tutorials, which one at a time is a little bit of a puzzle that also demonstrates how to use the individual basic classes. I've already done at this point in the Guildmaster mode, I've already done the Brute, who's like a warrior, and the Scoundrel is like a rogue class. And now we're going to be heading here, I'm explaining this, we're going to be recruiting the Spellweaver into the guild next. So that's what we're going to show off, is how the game looks, how the game works, how it feels, while also unlocking the Spellweaver. And right now we're in Gibbet Hill, which is where I unlock the Scoundrel. And we're going to head up next to Master the Elements is the next mission. And then I think that looks like we're going to be facing bandit guards, and the reward is to unlock the Spellweaver. So we're going to end up unlocking all the basic classes. I think there's 6 or 8, something like that, basic classes. Okay, so Master the Elements. All the missions give you like a nice little piece of art, and then you get like this little description of what's happening. Now I know that when you're done unlocking as part of the story mode, the classes, you'll go on regular missions that you get to pick and choose with a band of characters that you select, and then you're going to get random encounters along the way to, you know, the mission, just like in the board game. So anyway, for now though, we're just unlocking characters and learning how to play with them. So this game is going to, right now is the time in the game when it explains elemental infusions. So an elemental infusion, and I'll let you pause and read this if you want, without me talking in your ear. But the idea is that some cards, when you play them, infuse an element, which just means that the element becomes available. So there's, on the right over there where I'm gesturing, there's going to be a little list of all the infused elements. An infused element lasts, it's not available to the next turn. So if you infuse it on this turn, no one else later in the turn gets to use it. I never understood why that was the way it is, but that's how it is. And on the following turn, people can use the element, including the enemies, potentially. And then if it doesn't get used, it sticks around for one more turn after that. And then if it still doesn't get used, it just fizzles. And then you can see in the Freezing Nova attack card there that if you infuse with a frost element, which we thankfully start with in this particular little puzzle, it'll do +1 damage. So the game is explaining to us how to use elements, because the Spellweaver, most of her abilities infuse an element, and a lot of them can use an element. So there's a lot of planning involved there with, like, well, I'm going to use, you know, this thing here because it's going to infuse fire, and then on the next turn I'll use this other thing that's going to take advantage of that. But it's also fun to play with your synergies with your other teammates, because they may have cool things they can use. If only there was some, you know, like light magic infusion. And then you could say, I can infuse some light this turn, you know, kind of thing. So what we're going to do here is we're surrounded by bandits. We're going to pop a Freezing Nova ability, and that's going to hit everybody around us and immobilize them. And then I'm going to use Ride the Wind to move with a jump action, which is different than a normal move in that you can avoid obstacles. You can just jump over them. So that's the plan here. I'm also describing, because, you know, this isn't the kind of thing they've already explained, obviously well past this point, how the basic gameplay works. So I'll explain in brief. Each character has a selection of cards. At the beginning of the round, they pick the 2 cards they want to use. The first card you pick determines the initiative order. So I'm picking Freezing Nova first because 21 is pretty low, and I want to make sure I go first. And then I'm going to use the top or the bottom of any one card. I can choose in the moment. You don't have to pick right away. You can choose based on what's happening when your character's turn comes up. But you can only do the top of one card and then the bottom of the other card. So in this case, I am going to end my selection. The enemies randomly drew this card. They're going to move 3 and attack for 2 damage. This isn't random, of course. This is all predetermined because it's a bit of a puzzle. I'm going to Freezing Nova. I'm going to activate and use. You can see in the right here, the activation is taking away the infused element and adding it to the card. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to attack and hit everybody there. And then when you make an attack, you draw a random card off your attack deck, which is usually going to be like a +0 or a +1 or a -1. It's just a slight modifier to the base damage. So the base damage is 3, and you see a couple of those are +1s, at least one of them, and so it did 4 damage. So here I'm explaining that in my attack deck, and normally I have a few more cards in this, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I have 1 0, I have a couple -1s, I have 1 -2, I have a couple of +2s. Those are the cards I'm going to draw when I make attacks. And you know, you can actually, as you level up, you can actually make changes to that deck, which is really cool. It's actually probably the most powerful thing that happens when you level up is being able to do things like remove a -1 or replace a -2 with a 0, you know, or things like that, so that you're just more reliably doing damage when you make attacks. Okay, so now we are still kind of around these guys. Oh, and I'm showing off here, when you put your cursor over an enemy, you get all the information you could possibly want: their health, their current base movement attack modified by what their current action is going to be. In this case, they're going to move 3 attack 2. You can see their deck as well, like the +1s and the 0s, and you know, the attack cards that are in their decks. Now I'm going to move. I got to move somewhere where they can't move and attack. Okay. Well, they can't move anyway because they're immobilized. I had to move somewhere where they couldn't get to me, basically. So that was where I went, and look at that. The trainer says, "Good job." Now, because you infused elements, you did 3 damage, and you killed a bunch of them. And they were also immobilized, because Freezing Nova is a very powerful card for the Surrounded Spellweaver. Okay, so we're going to now talk about how the Spellweaver, most of her cards burn, which means that they're unavailable for the rest of the scenario. However, she has Reviving Ether, a very powerful card that itself burns, but it returns all of her burn cards back to her hand for use later in the scenario. That's so powerful. It's really cool. She doesn't have that many cards, honestly. Most characters have like 10 or whatever, 12 cards. She has like 8. But then she also gets to return most of them back to her hand halfway through the scenario. She does require a little extra planning than some of the other characters do, but it's definitely something that, you know, is doable for her. So we're going to do a short rest, and the difference between a long rest and a short rest is a long rest lets you choose a card to burn out of your discard pile. Short rest is a random draw. So we're going to randomly lose access to Freezing Nova for the rest of the scenario. This is not a problem, because we're going to be playing the other card that we had returned to our hand, Reviving Ether, giving us all of our burn cards back. So, no big deal. Also, a long rest tends to reactivate any used items, like powerful boots and things like that you might have had, and it gives you 2 health. So long rests are nice, but then long rests take your whole turn, though. So the short rest, we got our card back, and we can still pick 2 cards. So I picked Flame Strike, because the bottom action is an attack, and then Reviving Ether, because the top action will bring all of our burn cards back to our hand. So I think the first thing I'm going to do here is recover all my burn cards. Confirm action. And then here we go. Now all those burn cards are back available for future turns. Not now. I had to use them. I had to pick them next turn. And then I also noticed that they're gonna move to an attack, so I have to get rid of the guy in front of me. He's the only guy that can reach me and attack. The other two guys can move too, but they won't be able to get close to me to attack. And the AI it doesn't have to be smart, it just does what the card says. The card says move up to 2 and attack for 2. That's what their action is this turn. So if I kill the only guy, that moving 2 gets him in range of hitting me. The other guys will still move, but they won't be able to hurt me this turn. So we'll let them do their thing. They move 2, get as close as they can, or they move up to 2. And they strengthen, meaning they get to, I think with strengthen they get to, what does that do? I think that it lets them draw 2 cards and then pick the best of them when they attack. I can't remember for sure if that's what strengthen is or not. So anyway, new round. I got 2 targets here in front of me. The best thing to do is to pick, I think it's Fire Orbs. Fire Orbs, it says attack for 3 damage at a range of 3 spaces, but I can target up to 3 enemies, and it'll infuse fire. So I'm going to pick that. But I don't want to pick it first, because 69 is a very high initiative, and I want to make sure I go before them. So I pick Mana Bolt, only because it's got a very low initiative. I don't really care about what Mana Bolt does, because the Fire Orbs are going to kill my opponents, in theory. Now, in a regular game, I might end up drawing like a miss, for one of these units. Thankfully, that's the correct solution to this particular little puzzle, just explaining how, the Spellweaver works. So I'm going to heal now, just because I got to do something to end my turn. And that's it. We win. So yeah, that's a little bit of that's the kind of story puzzle that you get to sort of explore how each character works, which I think is a really clever way of doing that. And I think that the next thing we're going to talk about is now I've unlocked the Spellweaver for my Guildmaster mode for my campaign. It's not really a campaign, but that's basically what it is. And I believe we're going to go after the Tinkerer next. Now, I'm not going to do the Tinkerer in this video. I just wanted to show off how the game looks, how it feels, and how it works when you're playing it. I love what they've done here. The board game is fairly complex, and they've translated this beautifully. Being able to mouse over things and get lots of information, being able to see the wonderful animations. The game looks fantastic. Everything about the game is really well presented. The polish here is very impressive for a game that's still probably 6 months out from being released, maybe less. Their timetable kind of looks like, the roadmap kind of looks like they've got a handful more things to release yet this month and then in December. And then I think next year we have a couple more things leading up to the final release. But for now we have this Guildmaster mode, which I'm showing off. Starting a game in Guildmaster, you can pick an easy difficulty if you choose, if you're new to the Gloomhaven experience, or if you're playing with people, like young people who are new to Gloomhaven and you want to play a co-op game with them. You have an easy mode. Then of course normal, there's no modifiers, and then hard you can make it so that there's more higher level traps, monsters, but more gold. And then insane. This is how the board game works too. Actually, you can pick what level you want all the encounters to be. If you pick easy, then everything's a little bit easier. And then you can have shared gold, which is really nice because you're playing by yourself. I believe when you're doing a co-op game, split gold becomes available, and then each character can have their own tracked individual gold, which is how the board game works. The most important thing I wanted to show here, though, and I'll get to it here when I click on confirm, is in the Guildmaster mode, I explained how I went through a tutorial to explain the basics, and then I'm going through this story mode, which is like a little puzzles that are explaining how each character works. You can actually skip the tutorial and just have this story mode that I'm doing, or you can do a quick start, which is just going to skip all of that and take you right into the full map, being able to select all of the basic classes, however many there are, 8 I think, because there's still the Craighart, and maybe there's only 6. Boy, I can't remember. However many base classes there are, you can go straight to the regular Guildmaster game. If you wanted to play it again and don't want to go through all this stuff, or if you're playing with a group of people who already know how to play these basic classes and don't need the story intro stuff. Actually, with the co-op mode, I don't even know how the tutorial and the story mode will work. People are just watching someone play, I guess. I'm not even sure. Maybe you can't even have those. So that's that. I just wanted to, walk through this game because I really like what they've done here. It looks like they're on track to make something really special here. The groundwork for something very special too. I know I kickstarted Frosthaven, which comes out about the same time this should be hitting its 1.0, I think, sometime in March. I'm speculating. I'm just saying I think around March feels like when this game will be coming out. And that is also when Frosthaven's supposed to be coming out. So that'll be a really fun time to play some physical Frosthaven and some digital Gloomhaven. But in the meantime, we have what we have here now. There's a lot they've implemented. It looks like there's quite a lot of gameplay here. It's every bit worth... I think I got it on Green Man Gaming for $18 right now. It's 25% off. And I think that was a steal. Honestly, this game feels like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be digging into it quite a bit here in the next few months, I think. So anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.